you ready, big dog?
I'm ready.
Did I even tell you what we're doing?
No.
Welcome to Kansas QB, a show hosted by two former high school quarterbacks from the great state of Kansas. And now, here are your manly hosts, Steve Jewell and Tyler Martin.
Where are we? Yeehaw!
Ride 'em, cowboy!
Growing up in the cornfields of the Sunflower State, we were inseparable. Brothers from different mothers who also happened to be sisters. Our moms, not us. Decades later, he's in Iowa. I'm in Missouri, but we'll always have Kansas. And we'll always be the QB. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the show. I'm Steve, he's Tyler, and today's episode is entitled Stats. Tyler, 9-0, baby. 9-0. Here we go. When Grandview wins a national championship this season, which we all expect that they will, it will be because of the great coaching of Tyler Martin. Obviously, that's understood. But what else? What makes this team so special, Tyler?
I'm thinking about that. This team, more than any, I think, Grandview team, maybe other than the 2013, the national championship team, truly embodies that team sentiment where our big thing, like just be a great teammate every day. And there's not a whole lot of guys that need a bunch of attention. There's not a whole lot of guys that are getting bent out of shape because they're not getting their touches or getting their playing. Like it truly is. It's the most fun I've ever had coaching a DB room. Ooh, that's for sure.
That's saying something.
Yeah. I mean, just the way that they're ready to come to work and they have goals and expectations and they're not letting their egos get in the way, especially in my room. And it's not all that common to have a DB room that is as ego free as we are right now.
That's usually where they put the divas that couldn't catch, right? So, quick question. You are in it. You are 9-0. Yeah. You are coaching these guys every day. You got one more regular season game left, right?
Yes. This is Friday, so we play our regular season finale tomorrow. And it's a game that on paper we should win, and we hope to take care of business. We expect to take care of business. And if that holds true, then they've updated the playoffs this year at the NAI level where – instead of 16 teams getting in and it's kind of regional, kind of conference champs, there's a few at large. They've expanded it to 20. So now the teams 13 through 20 that quote unquote get in will play a first round or play-in round. So we'll actually have a bye next week, assuming that we handle business tomorrow. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. It gives it's awesome because for us, we get put behind the recruiting 8 ball. Just with when we play through as long as we're hopefully playing and we don't get visits because we're still playing. So we're going to spend some time getting out to some schools next week and checking in on kind of our top guys and the guys we would like to make Vikings next year. So
you get a little bit of
looking forward to it.
Yeah, you get a little bit of hit on the recruiting, right? Because you have, you're having success, but also doesn't that success kind of also help recruiting a little bit?
It's a decent trade-off. Like I mean, hey, you call them and you get them on the phone and you talk to them like, hey man, I see you're going to these places. Just so you know, we're still playing, so we'll get you in as soon as we can't. But it's
I have a theory, Tyler. I mean, you've kind of told us about the closeness of the team and the atmosphere and kind of the lack of ego and how that's really helping you guys this year. And honestly, with the St. Joe Christian team, I don't know if you've seen how our group has been doing. But we are.
Yeah, actually, Mike and I have been in contact a little bit this past week.
Okay, yeah, super fan Mike. Yeah. But this is the first team, Tyler, since we stopped, Dad and I stopped coaching, where number one, coaches got some players to coach. Not that there hasn't been some good players, but we've had some really great players come through in the last 5-6 years, but they just haven't had as many good players come through all at the same time. Haven't had the depth that we're used to. We had that little time in 11-man where we would have had a good 8-man team, kind of like with your dad and Donphan West there a couple years with Kip when he was playing. Or if we had an 8-man team there in Donphan West, might have had a good little run there. So we've had some of that.
That would have been a really fun group with Kip's team and those guys coming through.
So we kind of had that, but now that we're back in 8-man and we've got guys that contribute, we still have the second smallest roster in the entire state by one player. We have 16 kids. But out of those 16 kids, 14 of them play. And that's what I loved about our coach is that he has done such a great job of really being efficient super efficient. We've been able to get those kids all out on the field. Matter of fact, every single one of them contributes. There's not one kid that doesn't play. And watching the game last week against LeBlanc, which had the biggest roster in Missouri, in the state of Missouri, they played the same number of kids as we did, so they really didn't have a numbers advantage. They had more to choose from, but they didn't really have a numbers advantage as far as like as the game went on. And they won that, Tyler. They're 7-3 going to play against Plattsburgh, which if you would have told me 5 years ago that we'd have to play LeBlanc in the semifinal and then Plattsburgh in the championship game, I said, oh, I guess we're 11-man now. Two big schools, so we'll see how they do tonight. But that's what, kind of like what you said, that's what's been so good with this team, is that they just really like playing with each other, and they just have positive attitudes, about playing football. They're excited to go play football, and it's been fun to watch. But Tyler, I have a feeling that's not the only thing that's helping Grandview out. I know, as a matter of for a fact, that you guys have a secret weapon, and that's my cousin Seth. How's my cousin Seth doing out there?
Oh, your cousin Seth Jewell. Yeah. I asked him about the Iowa clan of Jewels, and he didn't seem to know a whole lot about the other side of the family, what? I guess. No, it's
funny.
Come on, cousin
Seth.
Where can you full disclosure though? He is one of Case's favorite players. Like Seth has been. He went to Des Moines Christian here in town, and you want to talk about a great teammate, someone that gets along with everybody, reliable. Good athlete. I mean, good player. Like that's a given. But
like
he shows up. Like he's older in the program, but he still comes and helps out at all the youth camps. Case thinks the world of him, and I do too. I mean, he's somebody that I trust on special teams, and just he's fun to be around. Like he's one of those reasons that this team is heading in the direction that we're think we're heading, because of guys like him. And we have more glue guys this year, I think, than we've ever had. And it makes the headaches aren't there that can sometimes be there all the time. And it really is it's a jewel. What are we going to say?
It's a jewel. He's a jewel. I was on there. I wanted to look up real quick.
And if you're watching this, don't let this go to your head.
Yeah, Seth. Stay humble, like we Jewels tend to be, while on the inside we really know that we're the best. But I looked up your the transcript from your last game. I was like, what is some guy named Jewel scored? Well, no wonder they're having such success. But Tyler, as much as we would like to talk football all day, we just can't. There's just too much to get to.
No, that's correct. Today we have the one and only Jeremy Benson of GrandRiverConference.com. And he also is with the Talks with God podcast. He's got some statistical acumen that he's going to dazzle us with on the JayTalkers segment. And then, Steve.
No, what?
A throwback.
No.
Broken news.
What?
Followed by things we remember.
Things we remember, just like the old days. Here we go. I don't know why I hit that button, but yes, let's go.
JayTalkers.
He's the AVP of Financial Planning and Analysis of an insurance company, a pastor of a local church, website administrator, social media coordinator, podcast host, and stat compiler for the entirety of the massive Grand River Conference in Northwest Missouri. He also hosts the podcast Talks with God, which can be found anywhere podcasts exist. But most importantly, although it took 16 years to accomplish, he finally managed to get yours truly to teach every one of his wonderful children at St. Joseph Christian School. It's the man with all the answers, provided the questions involve trivial statistics. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Jeremy Benson.
Love when the celly gon' ring. I'm putting on my team. Money come flow, no sink. Spring. Double cup my drink. Love my little baby, no leak.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is in studio. Let's bring him in, ladies and gentlemen. That's him right there. It's Jeremy Benson. Did you know, Jeremy, that I was a mere 13 hours away from realizing my dream of becoming a financial planner?
So was that 13 credit hours, or was it like 13 hours before you had an interview and you decided to back out?
It was 13 credit hours. It's this whole thing. My advisor at Kansas State said that I could finish my finance degree online. Turns out he was wrong. Told me twice I could do it. I got laughed at, actually, by the head of the finance department at Kansas State. So I was 13 credit hours away from realizing my dream of becoming a financial planner. We could have worked together, Jeremy.
Well, that's a whole semester. That's quite a bit away.
I'm aware, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I had another degree. It was a dual degree program. So anyway, Tyler, you had some questions for Jeremy. Let's go.
Okay. First of all, let's get back to what Steve said. He mentioned that he taught your children.
Yes.
Are they okay? Is there any scarring from this? Are they?
No, actually, Steve was one of their favorite teachers. My youngest son, he's one of the biggest introverts you'll meet, and he even took a media class from Steve, which was had to be an outgoing kid to do that class. And so Steve was one of their favorite teachers. I would say even when they were in Bible in junior high, and Steve taught some of the classes, and some other teachers taught the other classes, they wish they had Steve for that class. So, and wish he would have continued to teach Bible in high school. So even though they do like Mr. McDonald, but they really like Steve. So, yeah.
I get it. He's my favorite too. That's enough. That's enough.
I mean,
no,
his
seriously.
His head might get a little big after me saying that.
Seth, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's go, Seth. I'm making eye contact right now.
Yeah.
We're humble, buddy.
Yeah.
We know it on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah, Steve's a good teacher. I'm sure. But you have a lot going on. Going back to that bio, with everything else that you've got going, when did you decide to start tracking stats for the GRC?
So
and why?
Back in 2016, St. Joseph Christian joined the Grand River Conference. And so one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to keep track of what all the teams were doing in the conference. So I started keeping track of the football scores, and I just put them out on Twitter. I would post the scores. And so other people would start sending me the scores in the conference, and I kept track of them in a spreadsheet. And I started doing the same with basketball, and I started really just being known as the person who would keep track of all the scores. And so I decided to put on a website all of the scores. I had another website at the time, so this was my second website that I had built. And so it started out with a website, and so it started with football and basketball, and then I later decided to add baseball and softball, and then I started a Facebook page. I switched from just my own Twitter account and started an actual GRC Twitter account. It just snowballed from there. I ended up starting a podcast. I started a blog. I've started writing articles, and now I'm doing photography.
So when you did that, did you have to get like the okay from the administrators, or did you have to get an okay from? Or you just said, I'm just doing it.
I started out just doing it, and what was strange is that the conference liked what I was doing, and they liked my website so much more that they shut down their website and had me be the kind of the unofficial official website of the conference. Yeah,
that's funny. And I can
make your own job.
Yeah. Tyler, I can tell you just from being at St. Joe Christian, we had more than one time different people say, well, wait, isn't that GRC guy? Isn't he from your school? Isn't the GRC guy? I'm like, yeah, that's our guy. That's our guy. Now, he's impartial in the way that he goes about his statistics. Okay, so everybody needs to understand that. But it's nice having the GRC guy. He's one of our parents, so very good. Obviously that's a big deal. I am on Twitter, Tyler, basically to follow 3 people. And Jeremy's one of them. And I mean, I have like maybe 6 people that I follow, but 3 of them were accidental. But really, I had to get scores and stuff from around the area. Everybody checks in. But that's just only one thing he does, Tyler. That's just one thing. He does a lot of other things. For instance, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about your Talks with God podcast. I listened to a couple episodes, and you got some pretty cool guests. How would you describe your show?
Well, I'll start out. This is something that I started earlier this year around May, and it was really something that I wanted to do because I felt a calling to just spread the gospel to others. You know, I'm a pastor of my church, and that's one way to spread the gospel is preaching. But I felt that I had a calling to spread it to people beyond just my congregation. And so one of the things that I did is I started sharing some of my sermons on the podcast. But I also have interviews with other people in addition to the podcast. I just did an interview with Mr. Danny Maggart right before this was recorded, talking about the work that St. Joe Christian is doing, about the history and the all the construction that's going on here and the future of St. Joe Christian. But that's just one example of the interviews. Some of the other examples is I interviewed someone who's doing prison ministry, and I interviewed someone who wrote a book about forgiveness, and so there's just things like that, but really trying to just invite people to Christ and spread the good news of the gospel, and that's really the goal of the podcast. My goal is to put out a new episode every 2 weeks. I've been able to do that, and just any ideas that I have on either guest or just something where I go through Scripture and just talk about what that Scripture means, and that's what I'm doing on that podcast.
No, that's really cool. I mean, you've got passions in this direction, you got passions this direction. You're a pastor. You're also the financial planner. Okay, so here's the question. You've got all these things going on. If I could approach you as an employer and say, you get to pick one of the paths that you're on, I will financially take care of you. What's your favorite thing that you do right now? Because you're pulled in a bunch of different directions.
Well, I believe every single one of these is something I've been called to do by God. So that's a very difficult question to answer. But if that was the case, it would probably be the pastor, because I feel like bringing people to God and spreading the good news of the gospel is probably the biggest calling that there is. But as I said, I think every one of these is a calling from God. So luckily, I still can do those. And one of the things, I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday, and the guest on there said that you can minister to people in the church, but you can also minister to people outside of the church too, and that your work is your worship. And so that you need to think about whether what you're doing as a way to minister to people and invite people to Christ. So what I do outside of the church is something that I want to make sure that I am also using as a ministry in addition to what I'm doing inside the church as well.
And that's not always easy to do with numbers. I mean, because you're kind of a numbers guy, right, Jeremy?
Right.
Like, numbers is what you do. Mm-hmm. And so you find all these different ways to stay busy. I hear you, man. We like to be busy too, don't we, Tyler?
Yeah.
We absolutely do.
Speaking of numbers, Tyler.
Speaking of numbers, Jeremy, I know Steve has something on tap, and I've got to set this up. But assuming that you follow other areas of sports as much as you do the Grand River Conference, I'm challenging you to a sports trivia contest right now.
Okay.
Ooh.
Sounds good.
Tyler, do you really think that's a good idea, though? I mean, he's kind of a stats guru. I mean, he hasn't been doing like the NCAA tournament thing that he used to do in the old days, but he's still got a mind for sports trivia.
Off the top of the, like, if you're just looking at it face value, no, this does not seem like a good idea. However, I have a secret weapon.
What is your secret weapon?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show, our friend Matt.
Oh, man, our friend Matt. Who knew he was going to be on the show today? Who knew he was? Apparently he did, but he's eating again. My goodness, Matt, you're always eating when we go to you, man.
Got to pack the calories.
Got to pack in those calories. All right. So 2-on-1 sounds fair to me. It's game time.
Yep.
Today's topic, college basketball. I didn't want to bring him on and like go archery or something. I mean, NCAA hoops.
I had studied archery before this.
Yeah, I mentioned that Grand River Conference was my second website. My first one was a website on the NCAA tournament. So.
All right, so Matt would have got you on archery.
You didn't say that, Steve.
Moving on. All right, so I got these questions I'm about to ask, ladies and gentlemen. I got them off of the internet from some guy's blog. They may be accurate, they may not be. I didn't actually take the time to fact check any of them or even really read all of them. So as we go along, we might decide that some of these are incorrect, and I'll just say, yeah, you're right, because I'm not much of a buff on this, but luckily Tyler is and Matt is, so we're going to represent Kansas well, right, guys?
Pulled these questions off of his website?
No. I don't think so. All right, first question. Which team has won? And the way we're going to do this, we're going to do this like we do it in my class when I had Jeremy's kids in my class in the Bible class. We're going to do it because the lag's no fair. He would win. So we're going to do, you're going to alternate who gets a chance to get the question. And if you miss it after 5 seconds or so, we're going to give a chance to steal. And we'll try to keep score.
Okay.
Are you ready? Our guest is going to go first because, he's here in studio. So first question. Which team has won the most national titles in the history of the NCAA tournament? Oh, this might be old information.
Well, it's UCLA.
It is old information. And it's correct. All
It would
right.
be 11, and their last one was in 1995.
I would have said that also. 1 point for Jeremy. All right, number 2, over to Matt and Tyler. Which are the only 2 teams that played in the Final Four in their hometown? Interesting. I need to have like a horn that says like, you're done. We'll make it this noise here.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, you got one. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go with UCLA and St. John's.
UCLA and St. John's. Incorrect, but you got one of them. Well done. Over to Jeremy.
So UCLA is one of them. I think they did it several times. But the other one was Butler. When they played against Duke in 2010.
Correct. All right. Jeremy is up, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, sir.
This is
2-0.
fun.
You're blowing them away. This is lots of fun. All right, question number 3. I'm glad I'm the one reading the questions. Question number 3. Which team is the most recent team? And again, I don't know when this was. I did not even look at when this was put out, so it may not be the most recent team to win or to repeat rather as national champions. Oh, I know this one.
Oh, that's my turn.
Yeah,
this
it's your
time.
turn.
Yeah,
Jeremy's up.
that would be Florida in 2007, 2006, 2007.
All right, correct. 4-0. It's a blowout.
But a fun fact.
Please, fun fact, please.
Is that the last 6 national champions have not reached the Sweet 16 the following year.
That's one of the funnest facts I've heard in a while. All right, Matt and Tyler,
sad.
time to stop embarrassing yourselves. Question number 4.
come on. Thanks.
Let's see. Which city, it's 3-0 right now, which city has hosted the second most Final Fours since 1939? Second most.
Okay, Tyler. Let's
Second
talk
most.
about this. So Final Four is
Jeremy's not getting
Indianapolis or Dallas.
We got to pick one. By the way, that's our...
Not.
Indianapolis. Go with Indianapolis.
Okay, I was going to put the sad trombone in here, wah, 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 but that was a really good guess, Matt. That's not correct, but that was close. That's actually the 3rd, so well done, sir. Over to Jeremy. Jeremy, second most.
I think it might be Kansas City.
Incorrect. No one gets that one. All right.
San Antonio.
Yes, that felt good. New York City, actually.
Was Kansas
Who
City
knew?
number 1?
Oh,
No, number
No.
1
they haven't hosted a Final Four in ages.
Since
Anyway,
1988, but they
since
were
1939. That was.
this was since 1939. That's true.
See, you guys would have had it right if it was in 89. All right, moving on. All right, this one's for Jeremy. Which team has made the most official Final Four appearances with 18?
the most official. Okay.
That does feel like a...
Because
a
some
dig.
of them have been vacated. Yeah.
I do love vacation.
I would say North Carolina.
Correct! North Carolina, well done. Back over to Tyler and Matt. This is a fun game. 5-0. Which team...
You're giving him the easy ones. I just like to point out. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm giving him all the easy
Actually,
ones.
I think I'm up 4-0. I think I got one of them wrong.
Okay, 4-0. We'll go with that.
I
Okay,
don't
you're
wanna
going to win
cheat.
regardless, but we'll just make up numbers as we
I
go.
don't think it matters, Jeremy.
It probably
This
doesn't.
one.
Which team has won the most national championships in the past 10 years? Hey, do you guys want me to give you a multiple
Duke.
choice?
It'd be 10 years. Would that be Duke?
He doesn't want the multiple choice. Is that your final answer? This is good radio.
Yeah, go. I know Tyler's not chiming in here.
I think he froze or pretended to freeze.
I'm going with Duke.
Football
Duke.
season.
Yeah.
Duke.
Incorrect. Over to Jeremy.
Okay, so UConn has won 2 and Villanova has won 2 in that time frame.
Villanova would have been my guess.
But if this was, so it depends on when this was set. So I'm going to
That's
go with
true.
Villanova.
That's probably
Man,
right.
it's football season.
Because I have no idea when this was written. So at the time, it was a tie between Florida, North Carolina, and Duke. So this thing has to be...
Yeah,
Oh, this is old.
This is too old.
6 years
old.
Yeah, because Florida would have been about 15 years ago.
All right.
So Villanova and UConn would be the 2 that have won 2.
We'll give him credit. What is the only year in which all 4 number 1 seeds, as of whenever this was written, made it to the Final Four?
That's an easy one.
You got this, Matt.
2008.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Tyler and Matt make a nice little comeback, but still get destroyed. I appreciate Jeremy Benson for coming on the show today and doing such a great job of not only tell us a little bit about what he's up to, but also destroying my friends in a game that I didn't want to play because I would have got destroyed even by more than that. So we'll go ahead and say goodbye to Jeremy. Remember, check him out. You can find him at all of the following places. Go ahead, Jeremy. Where can they find you?
Talks with God podcast, GrandRiverConference.com, and Well, hoopstournament.net is my NCAA tournament website. So,
And I'll bet I should have gone to that one instead of whatever. All right, see you, Jeremy.
Halftime ad time. For as little as $15 per show, your business could be featured right here. A logo and an ad reads all you need to get started. Want more? Send us your 15-second advertisement or let's put one together for you. Kansas QB has partnered with Jewel Media LLC to provide options for every business. Interested? Fill out the form in the show notes to customize your Kansas QB ad experience. And now, back to the show. Things we remember.
We're getting older, and we've already forgotten more than we ever knew, but some memories still cling to our brain parts, like my loyalty to Barry Sanders when anyone would say anything positive about Emmitt Smith in the 90s. Tyler, in season 1, we came up with a list. This list is filled with memories from our time growing up in Kansas. Let's see just how well we can remember. Tyler, what are some of the athletes that we most often wanted to be like while growing up in Bendina, Kansas?
Okay, so this is not just Kansas born and bred player. Could be anybody. So this to me is very sport specific because who we wanted to emulate obviously depended on what game we were playing. It also depended upon the ages that we were as we were doing this. So when we were younger, playing basketball, like on your little front slab, those names varied greatly than they did as we were playing up at the courts when we were older, 12, 13, 14. So starting with my list, football-wise, Barry Sanders.
Oh, absolutely.
Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, Thurman Thomas. Those were the 3 running backs off of Tecmo Super Bowl that I played with the most. That I was like, okay, if I'm going to be a running back, if we're going to play this, I'm going to be those guys. Then I would go to the defensive side. I wanted to be a fast corner or DB. Rod Woodson, Darrell Green, Dion. One of those guys would be if I'm on defense, I'm calling the defensive backs. I wasn't going to be Lawrence Taylor, Derek Thomas. I was going to be one of those fast guys back there. If you were flexed out wide, no, you're going to be Jerry Rice or for me, Mark Clayton or Mark Duper with the Dolphins. And then I got to admit, for the football side, I was always disappointed because I was obligated to say Dan Marino back then because it was my team. But I didn't want to be like Dan Marino. I wanted to be like Randall Cunningham, or I wanted to be like Steve Young, somebody that could run around and do some stuff and not just be in the pocket. I couldn't throw the ball that well. So, anyways, that was my football guys.
You did end up with the same knees as Dan Marino, but at the time, you had absolutely nothing in common with Dan Marino other than a love for the number 13 and the Dolphins.
Yes, correct. The reason.
All right, well, so move on. Give me another sport, Tyler. Who else did we like to? Did you like to be?
So, I would say that the predominant sports that we played were football, basketball. So, basketball-wise, for me, obviously, anybody growing up in the 90s, it was Michael Jordan. If you got to pick first, you're picking Mike. Or for us, we'd pick Pistol Pete because we'd do Pistol Pete drills. We'd want to have that fun stuff. As we got older, and the people that I wanted to emulate that I actually thought were the best, Jacques Vaughn, Chauncey Billups from Colorado, Dedrick Willoughby from Iowa State, the guards at that time in the Big 8 were the guy, as long as they weren't from Missouri. The guards in the Big 8 were the guys that I wanted to be, and then a little bit later, like Jason Williams, as he was getting to the league, wearing the baggy clothes, throwing behind the back passes, bouncing it off the elbow, trying to emulate that kind of stuff. And then, okay, I'll let you get to your list, but first, those are the big ones. Baseball-wise, I always wanted to try to be Ken Griffey Jr., but you got to be Ken Griffey Jr. because you were left-handed, and I couldn't pick left-handed people. Yeah, that's sweet.
The kid.
Some lesser-known ones for me. Pete Sampras. We played tennis quite a bit. Well, I'm just saying the non-mainstream. Okay. But if we were going to do, I wanted to be Pete Sampras. Like I thought he was cool. I picked Pete over Andre.
Every time.
For me, Michael Johnson, track. That's who you wanted to be. If
the 200-meter runner.
That was Michael Johnson. Yeah, 200, 400. And then I put some guys at the end that are just rodeo guys that I would try to be at home. Larry Mahan, Phil Line, Tuff Hedeman, like the guys that you probably didn't really know.
No, the only thing I knew about rodeo is that when I went over to your house and you watched the sports bloopers tape, the song Dizzy would come on and the cowboys would just go in circles on the rodeo. And that's literally the knowledge that I had of rodeo people. But you mentioned an Iowa State guy there, so we got to bring Jeremy Benson back on the show because he's an Iowa State guy. What do you think about Diedrich Willoughby call there, Jeremy?
Oh, he was awesome. One of the best players back in '96 for the Iowa State Cyclones.
I'll bet you'd have some stats on them if we asked you for them.
I'd probably have to go back a little bit for that. But
Fair enough.
But back in the Tim Floyd days of Iowa State.
Oh, Tim Floyd. Yeah, I remember that. Hated when we lost to him, though. All right, for my list, Tyler, we've got, as expected, you mentioned Michael Jordan. We all wanted to be like Mike, whether it was Come Fly With Me, whether it was Space Jam, whether it was just watching him always win. And then he left, and then he came back, and he was still really good. And you go back and think how bad he was for the Wizards, but you go look at his stats, he was pretty good for the Wizards. Like, wow. Yeah. How is this guy still really good? Kind of like when Deion Sanders came back for the Ravens. Like, he's not that bad. He should be worse than he is. So Michael Jordan, obviously. Yeah. For me, I have a deep, abiding love for the 49ers. So any 49ers player, especially during that time frame from, obviously the quarterbacks, but then you had Jerry Rice, greatest receiver of all time, probably the greatest player of all time, just going to say it. Roger Craig, Ronnie Lott. Like, if you go down through the list of the guys that were on those teams and how much I love them. So it was all of them. Rathman, Jones, obviously we want to be like those guys. But it's Joe Montana and Steve Young. It's Joe Montana and Steve Young, and I'm not even going to separate them because for me, they were the same guy. I had the same love for both of them. I cried when Joe Montana was traded to the Chiefs, and everybody was all excited. But then Steve Young was so great. So obviously those guys. But moving away from them, right? Also a Royals fan growing up, still am. Not that there's much to cheer about these days. But George Brett, everybody wanted to be George Brett. And he was a lefty. Like, it doesn't get better than George Brett. Barry Sanders, you mentioned him. Bo Jackson, you said him. I just like Bo Jackson actually as a baseball player. He was good, obviously, as a running back for the Raiders and fun to play with on the type of Super Bowl. But I just appreciate him on RBI too as a baseball player.
There you go. And
his highlights are gross. I mean, they're insane. Like what he did. It's so sad that the world was robbed of what he might have done. But all of those are ones that anybody that's anywhere from 35 to 45, they're all going to agree on. But here's where my kind of what you may not expect me to necessarily have emulated as a child, but the first one's Jose Canseco. Nobody likes Jose Canseco. I liked Jose Canseco. And matter of fact, back in the day, you might remember this, Tyler, people would call him Jose Can Strikeout. Is what they would call him. That was like a thing at our school. Yes. And I would defend him because he was like one of my favorite players. And I didn't even like Mark McGwire. I just liked Jose. I liked one of the Bash brothers. And then we got later on in his career, and I realized that he was kind of an idiot. That came out later, and I realized, oh, maybe I don't like him so much. But as a kid, I loved Jose Canseco. Next one, Tyler. And again, everything for us comes back to Nintendo, right? And this guy wasn't even in from the game. But you remember the volleyball game that you had on the Nintendo?
I've got it. The Nintendo got hooked up to the TV in the living room the other night, and
well done, sir.
Volleyball is one of the games that we still have.
Excellent. Well, for me, it was Karch Karai. Like, I loved watching, because I think I don't know, we got Jeremy, he'd probably know, but I think the 96 Olympics was the first time that sand volleyball was a part of the Olympics. And Karch Karai was on that gold medal winning team, I think.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yes. We would have been 5th, 6th grade, that kind of time frame, that summer. And this is a time where we watched those games, and I just loved Karch Karai. And so obviously he's easy to cheer for.
You liked him because he wore the pink hat.
Well, I did like pink, so it's possible.
Yeah.
But Karch Karai, obviously, we got to pick him. And then finally, and this one ended up being... Boy. Yeah, Kansas boy. Ended up being a little bit prophetic, but Jim Ryan. I just loved the story that it was a Kansas kid that was the first person to break the 4-minute mile barrier. At least, I think there's an asterisk by that I'd heard at one point. But Jim Ryan, Kansas, ended up being in politics in Kansas. But I would go on to be a miler, and it wasn't not because of Jim Ryan. As a matter of fact, that probably had some influence in it. I was an all-state miler thanks to Jim Ryan. Now, did I ever run under 4, Tyler?
You know what? There's an asterisk by that as well. So maybe.
Maybe I did. I did not run under 4. I did run under 5 multiple times, but never under 4. Good for Jim Ryan. He was my other guy. So, Tyler, I feel like that we came up with a pretty good list, but I think we need a little bit more perspective from a guy that didn't spend like you and I. We have a lot of groupthink because we did all the same things. Yeah. We need to talk to a guy that's a little bit outside the box here. So let's bring on again, ladies and gentlemen, our friend Matt. All right, Matt.
All right.
First, you've been hearing us talk.
Yeah, off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, off the top of my head, the cartoon show, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Wayne Gretzky.
All-Stars.
Yeah.
Oh,
All-Stars.
yes. I forgot about that.
So that always comes to mind. But I tended to be local because we didn't have cable, and so it's like Danny Manning, Michael Bishop, which K-State, Neil Smith, Derek Thomas, and then, the most famous Chiefs quarterback until Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think he did anything other than be Chiefs quarterback for a couple of years was Joe Montana.
Boo. Boo you, man. That's awful. How dare you. That was a good list. Up to the end. We rooted there at the end, but you know what? We've got a guy in studio that's been sitting here and listening to us talk about our favorites. Jeremy, do you have anything you want to add to that?
One that I didn't hear mentioned was the great Larry Bird.
Was he good? Was he good at basketball?
Yeah, but he was during my time, maybe.
Yeah, he's a little old for us.
Well, I would say like that. That's why I said like the eras of who we wanted to be.
Yeah.
Where when we were younger, it was like Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, the Celtics that your dad had had forged a relationship with some of those guys, and so we were more in line with that. And then as we got older, it became Mike and Clyde Drexler and Sean Kim.
Bird had the back
Wilkins.
injury.
The next year. Yeah.
Right. Bird was like on the way down when we were in, I think, second grade. We still loved him. Matter of fact, that Tecmo basketball game, it all comes back to Nintendo.
Awful.
It was a terrible game, but we love to have the Boston because then Bird could hit it from anywhere. And there's also something to be said for, watching a sport and having a guy at the very top. You know what? I could see myself as him. I just have to grow a mustache, So seeing a guy that looked like me, be competitive, and we did cheer for him. Michael Jordan was our guy, but it was fun to see Larry do what he was doing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then as we went to FCA camp and you'd go through Terre Haute every year. So we, I think we ate at his restaurant back in Terre Haute once or twice. I don't have a big recollection of that. But Jeremy, you're right. Like Larry Bird is one of my all-time favorites and who I would put as one of the best of all time. But just it wasn't that cool to say I want to be Larry Bird when you had Mike tearing it up.
Yeah. Well, I was number 33 in grade school for basketball. But the other one I would say for me was Ozzie Smith. I tried to do the flip, but I couldn't do that. But, yeah.
That's how you break a neck right there, buddy. That's how you break your neck. All right, well, that's our list, Tyler, and I think there's some pretty good ones on there. And, well, that does it for this episode of Kansas QB. Thank you to our friend Matt and Jeremy Benson for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, also thank you to whoever is kind of watching this live when we put it out. We're not exactly live, but the big takeaway is who's ever downloading this show in Robinson? Thank you. Yeah. Steve, you know who that is?
I don't know who it is. I like to think that it's maybe Buddy or Cal or one of the guys from my baseball team who I haven't seen since I was 4 years old. But I did play on a Robinson baseball team in like 1990, and so I like to think it's one of them. If it's not, whatever. It's good to have you on board with us, Robinson, Kansas, representing. Your Star Corner house wasn't too far from there, Tyler.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Would have made more sense for me to play on that team.
Still sore about that. Well, also we want to thank Tracy of Tracy Lindley Voiceovers for the way to professional audio. And of course, I would like to thank Tyler for taking time in his busy schedule to talk about stats.
Stats. As they say, there's three types of lies, big lies, and statistics.
Well, that's enough of that. For Tyler, I'm Steve, wishing you big fun in your small town.